As useful as iPads are, there are a number of accessories that make day-to-day use of the iPad so much easier. If you own an iPad, you've probably bought a few things to make it better, and I'm no different, except, I make YouTube videos about iPads, so I buy all kinds of stuff. And that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. Hi, my name is Rich. Over the last couple of years, I've made a batch of videos on how to use your iPad and iPhone in simple, easy to follow terms. But every once in a while, I'll show off the shiny stuff I've bought that just make using these devices better. If you'd like to learn how to navigate your iPad and iPhone, without going nuts, then please consider subscribing, and why not? It's free. By the way, this is not a sponsored video. I bought all this stuff with my own money. But if you are interested in purchasing any of these accessories, there are affiliate links in the description below. If you click on a link and make a purchase, I get a small commission. And by small, I mean, really small. But it doesn't cost you an extra penny, and it does help support this channel. Okay, with that out of the way, let's get started. Category number 1 is iPad stands. I've bought a lot over the years, and they all work pretty well. But the Lulu Look magnetic stand is my daily driver. I've got one for my iPad mini, my 11-inch iPad Air, as well as my 12.9-inch iPad Pro. The iPad snaps to the stand using magnets, which makes, placing the iPad on and then taking it off fairly easy. The magnets are strong, and it doesn't feel like the iPad is going to slip off. The only issue I've had is that the metal plate on the iPad mini stand is exactly the same size as the iPad mini, which means it's a little tougher to unsnap from the stand. You got to kind of get your fingernails under there and sort of pry it off. On the other hand, the metal plate on the 11-inch and 12.9-inch stands are not as big as the actual iPad, so you can just grab the bottom, give it a slight tug, and the iPad pops off. Another thing I've noticed about good quality stands is they are really stiff to adjust, and I'm sure that's by design. After all, you don't want a stand that will droop over time. But you do have to wrestle with the stand a bit to get it to your preferred position. And this really hasn't been an issue for me, as I'm not constantly adjusting the height of the stand. One thing I really like is that you can position the iPad so it's almost flat on your desk with a slight incline, making writing with the Apple Pencil a breeze. In fact, I used to place my iPad on my desk and write away, but the iPad would slide around a little bit, and using these stands solved that issue immediately. Plus, the foldability makes traveling with them very easy. They're not the cheapest stands in the world, but for me, they're worth the money. I also have what I call my permanent desk stand. This is the MagFlot stand from Chargin Pro. It too is magnetic and rotates, but however, unlike the Lulu Look stand, it does not fold up. Here at my desk, I keep my 12.9-inch iPad Pro on it all the time. Using the iPad in this configuration almost feels like using a computer. The magnet plate is covered in a soft fabric to keep your iPad from getting scratched, and while the magnets are strong, popping the iPad off is a breeze. And it's just good to look at. It's a premium stand that feels very Apple-like. If you have a place where you can have a desk setup like this, I guarantee you'll like this stand. It's not cheap either, but like the Lulu Look stands, it's worth it. Lastly, I have a Banks Infinity Basic iPad stand. No magnets here, just a lip to hold the iPad. Given the lack of magnets, you can use this stand with any iPad. And like the other two stands, it's stiff, but it does fold down a bit, and you can use it for writing. The base also rotates, so, that's kind of cool. I was hesitant to show this stand because I don't think Banks makes it anymore, but they do have a magnetic version that works exactly the same way. Again, I'll include a link in the description below if you'd like to check this out. Next up is ESR's magnetic screen protector. While it is a screen protector, I bought it because it has a paper-like feel to it. The magnets grab the edges when I stick it on, allowing me to write away with a much better experience with the Apple Pencil than directly on the glass. The trick about this thing is you can stick it on when you need it and remove it when you don't. I love the look of the iPad's beautiful screen, and whenever I stick a permanent screen protector on it with a paper-like feel to it, it just dulled up how everything looked. And I could only live with that for so long because I use my iPad to view things more than a writing device. So, I'd peel the protector off and throw it away since it can't be used twice. This ESR screen protector solves this dilemma by being removable. The only bad thing about it is the magnets are not very strong, or at least they don't feel all that strong. Having said that, I've not had it pop off when I'm using it with the Apple Pencil, nor has it fallen off when I carry the iPad around. So for me, this cracked the nut of always having a dull screen protector on your iPad. Next up are keyboards, and I'll be the first to say I love Apple's Magic Keyboard paired with the iPad. I've seen 100 videos on YouTubers using mechanical keyboards and raving on about them. And if you're my age, you've probably used a mechanical keyboard on an IBM typewriter at one time or the other. I didn't complain about them when I used them in the 80s, but I just find Apple's keyboard to my liking more than any keyboard I've ever used. With my iPad on the MagFlot stand, I can just type away and feel right at home. Of course, I use the keyboard in conjunction with the Apple trackpad so that I can take advantage of all of the iPad's gestures. With these two items, I can navigate the iPad almost without ever touching it. All these things together really do make you feel like you're working on a computer. But the great thing about the iPad is when you're finished, you can just take it off the stand and pack it in your bag and take it with you. And for that matter, you can pack the keyboard pretty easily as well. I also purchased the Logitech K380 Bluetooth keyboard. I like the size and feel of this keyboard. The trick up its sleeve is that it can connect to 3 different devices with the push of a button. I use it with my iMac as well as my iPad, and I don't have to go through pairing it every time. Just once and you're good to go. Still better, this keyboard at $42 at the time of the making of this video is less than half the price of Apple's Magic Keyboard. Logitech makes good keyboards, so if this interests you, I just don't think you can go wrong. Speaking of keyboards, we also have portable keyboards, and you can't really have an accessory video without including Apple's Magic Keyboard Folio. I've got one for each of my iPads, and there's just no getting around it. To me, these are the best keyboard folios you can buy. They're way too expensive for what you get, I understand that, but there's nothing on the market with the same build quality and functionality. No Bluetooth connection is required, just snap the iPad on and you're good to go. The feel of the keys are, at least to me, perfect. Same for the trackpad. It just works, and it works well. The Magic Keyboard Folios for the iPad Pros have the floating design element that makes them look so cool when in use. It's an iconic look to me, but these keyboard folios really do bring a new level of functionality to the iPad. It's like carrying around a laptop. Interestingly, the keyboard folio for the base 10th Gen iPad is quite different. The folio back snaps on with magnets and has a kickstand rather than a raised floating look of the keyboard folio for the iPad Pros. But this keyboard has something the others do not, and that's a row of function keys. So, from a practical standpoint, this keyboard is more functional than its iPad Pro counterparts. Now, Apple remedied this when it released the iPad Pro with the M4 chip in it. This new design includes a row of function keys, bringing it up to speed with its smaller brother. But it's only available on the newer iPads with the M4 chip. Come on, Apple, you can do better than that. Anyway, all of these keyboard folios are a practical necessity if you plan to use your iPad for more than just a media consumption device. Now here's the thing. If you don't want to pay what Apple charges for one of their keyboards, there are alternatives. Granted, both of the alternatives I'm about to show you require a Bluetooth pairing, but pairing a keyboard to your iPad is not like going to law school. Only takes a minute. First up is the Dock magnetic keyboard for my 11-inch iPad Air. It looks a lot like Apple's keyboard. However, it's missing the ability to charge the iPad through the keyboard, and you do need to charge the keyboard separately. The build quality is not as good as Apple's keyboard, but, it's much less expensive. The keys feel good, and the trackpad works nicely. This keyboard is really a nice entry point for an iPad Air or an iPad Pro. Just not the iPads with the M4 chip. You can find keyboards like this all over Amazon. More interesting to me, though, is a similar keyboard folio for the 10th Gen iPad. This keyboard from Greenlaw mimics Apple's iPad Pro keyboards. It's got the floating design and works well. Like the Dock keyboard, you do have to pair the iPad to the keyboard, And you do have to charge the keyboard separately. But, other than that, it's a pretty nice keyboard. And right now, the price is about $76, so it's cheap compared to everything else. I've had it for about a month, and it's worked well. I'm not a big fan of the trackpad on either of these keyboards. It takes a little bit of effort to click them, but since I always set my trackpad to tap to click rather than pressing to click, it's not an issue for me. What I am happy to see emerging are keyboards that hit about 95% of what Apple's keyboards do at less than half the price. That's the takeaway here. Lastly is external storage. So honestly, I rarely use external storage, but I do have an external SSD that connects to the USB-C connector on my iPad. This solid-state drive is the Samsung T7 1 terabyte. I think I paid about $100 for it. I'm trying to figure out a simple way to back up all my photos onto the external drive natively, but I've not cracked that nut yet. I'll let you know if I do. Anyway, now that iPads recognize external drives, it doesn't hurt to have one hanging around in case you need it. By the way, Apple doesn't even offer a terabyte of storage on the 10th gen iPad. To get 1 terabyte of storage on an iPad Air from Apple costs a whopping $500 extra. Yes, I know there might be some benefits to having internal storage over external storage, but there's also a benefit to having the $400 difference in my pocket. Anyway, the T7 is snappy fast, works seamlessly with the iPad, and is super portable given its small size. Definitely worth a look if you're in the market for extra storage space. By the way, I've not mentioned the Apple Pencil, but it's almost a must-have accessory. You'll have to wait to hear more about the new Apple Pencil Pro because I've got a dedicated video coming out soon on all the new features wrapped up in that little white tube. Okay, so whether it's unique iPad stands, handy keyboards, magnetic screen protectors, portable iPad folios, or external storage, there are many practical iPad accessories on the market today. These are just a handful of the ones I use. Let me know in the comments below the accessories you use. Okay, that's a wrap for today. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you in the next video.